Well, it's wonderful to be here with you today, Paolo. My friend, my source of inspiration, somebody I've got to know over the last few years, somebody with incredible intellect, generosity, a wonderful spirit, and a lot of wisdom. And hey, your latest book, The 7 Games of Leadership, Navigating the Inner Journey of Leaders. This is a brilliant book. It's substantive, it's well researched, beautifully written, very practical, lots of exercises. And you move from Greek philosophy to one of your favorite musicians, probably your favorite musician, Bruce Springsteen, to basketball, as you illustrate your point so vividly. It's a manifesto. And it's a manual for any leader aspiring or experienced. So well done. Congratulations. And welcome to the show.
Well, David, I'm supposed to be the one thanking you because what you feel about me is reciprocal. We've been helping each other, mentoring each other, exchanging views, hopes, frustrations, pain, dreams, concepts and ideas and books over the years is something that I value enormously. So thanks so much for inviting me back to your podcast.
Indeed. Well, it's an absolute pleasure. And thank you for those kind words. So, of course, we're going to be talking today about what it takes to play these games of leadership successfully and, importantly, meaningfully. I mean, meaning comes through and purpose comes through your book and beliefs comes through your book right from the beginning. And perhaps let's start there because you set out quite early on in the book, effectively some founding beliefs of yours that you think are important. And in some ways it says, if you believe the same, if you have the same beliefs, come on the journey with me. Why was putting your beliefs, your personal beliefs so important so early on in the book?
Because what unites people, what relate people to organizations, etc., is not so much what you do, but why you're doing it. Fundamentally, the purpose and the meaning behind whatever activity, whatever profession you have chosen in your life. So to me, an understanding if there is a shared values behind people behavior is absolutely crucial. And I mentioned this in my book. There was a radio program in the 50s in the United States was called This I Believe, which I consider kind of the father of TED Talks, in which people in 5 minutes have to tell a story about what they believe, And it's currently, available online. You can listen, and only 5 minutes. So it's so short. You can listen in while you're taking a pause with your cup of tea or your espresso. And these are very uplifting stories because very normal people like the two of us, David, are sharing what they believe, what the value system, what really drives them to do something meaningful in their own life. And so at the beginning of the book, I said, listen, that's the thing that I believe. And if you believe the same things as I do, then you may find this journey, this reading meaningful. And if you don't, I respect your views, but perhaps you would not be able to find it that meaningful. But I generally believe that the what I was sharing is something applicable to many people in different parts of the world. So I hope it will relate to people, mind and heart.
It's a great example early on of your clarity and your choices, because you talk later on about your choices about not only your career, but now who you want to work with and for. So I thought that was a great example. If you had to pick out one belief, I know you have a number at the beginning, but if you had to pick out one belief that's most important to you, what would that be and why?
Listen, I think being consistent in your choices. I mean, when I say consistency, it doesn't mean stubbornness, but it means being able to remain who you are regardless of external circumstances. No, and what I mean by this is I can make a joke to say I'm a very honest person, except on Wednesday between 3 and 4, meaning that you're not really such an honest person. No. And so equally in your professional life, for example, when you have to do things that are against your values, or when you are entering to territories that they're going to impact your reputation or your well-being, which choice do you make? And so to me, consistency is fundamentally remember what you stand for. Remember what you stand for. And if the clarity, that's the reason why my former book was called The Compass and the Radar, the clarity about your direction, your compass is part of your DNA. You may at times maybe lose your job, but you keep your integrity, which I think is much more valuable. And quite frankly, I've been fired once because of that reason. Did I enjoy the process? No. Did I miss the 2 months following that moment? Absolutely no. But I'm proud that I've done it. Yes, I'm proud that I've done, because I maintain my soul rather than sell it to somebody else. Yeah.
So you've talked about the importance of beliefs in your own beliefs just then, and obviously is very prominent in your book. I guess it begs the question of how do so many people lose their identity and then require, if you like, some form of crisis, professional or personal, to reawaken themselves? Why do they lose consciousness of themselves? What goes on in their head?
Well, listen, there are perhaps two elements to consider. The first one is it seems to me that most of us take and understand the moment of crisis when there is a life quake happening to them. There are earthquakes and life quakes, and life quakes are sad events that occurs in our life in which nobody is immune. And so, to me, there is a bit of a sadness in understanding, seeing this behavior, because it's almost like expecting that you're immune from whatever difficulties, and then when it comes to you, then you're unprepared to deal with it. That's the first one. The second element, I also do a small exercise when I do my workshop or my speeches, if the number of the people in the room is reasonable. And I ask people to say, "Can you introduce yourself?" And I leave the question very open. And some people said, "My name is John. I'm the VP of sales in a global company. I'm managing 120 people. Last year, I've done a budget of 340 million pounds." That's one way. And another one could say, "My name is Jennifer. I'm a mother of three wonderful kids, and I love reading, and I keep my husband behaving well, because at times he can be a bit of a naughty guy, and there is a bit of humor." No? So here is just a little story that how do you define yourself? What is your identity?
Yes.
Some people define themselves about what they do and the business card that they have, and some people define themselves about who they are. And I found, actually, I don't want to say that men are this way and that the women are the other, but usually women have a more mature approach by defining themselves by not only being a professional, and most of them are incredibly good, but also by, most importantly, by being a mother, by being a wife, by being a human being.
Yes.
And so here is to remember that we are human beings before being a human doing. You are defined by who you are, not by what you do and the business card that you have. If you define yourself exclusively by the role that you have, the moment which the role is removed from you, you enter into an unsurmountable crisis. And so I'm telling people, be careful, because if everything you have is a business card with the word vice president on it, and because of a restructuring, maybe tomorrow you don't have that job anymore, you feel there is no meaning in your life. So to me, having a broader sense of identity is helpful, and it's also helpful to deal with the crisis that eventually comes to everybody's life.
That's very clear. I guess that links also to this broader concept of success that you talk about. And I know many executives would say, of course, success is much more than my role, my title, the amount of money I earn. It's much broader than that. But then actually they talk about themselves in a very narrow way and actually consider their successes in life very narrowly too, particularly in terms of professional successes. What gets in the way? Is it their upbringing? Is it insecurity? What is it that leads people to define and practice success in such a narrow way?
But listen, I'm not a psychologist, but I think it's fair to say that if you are relatively successful in your job, you start to believe that that's what success look like, and therefore you tend to stay in this area. And then in my book, you may be the champion of the better game because you're bloody good in doing whatever you're doing, but then you don't grow. And I also work with a lot of people that maybe are incredibly powerful or rich or famous or whatever, but they are not really fully developed individuals at all.
Yes.
at all, and they're very mature in their behavior, and they are living with the terror of leaving, of being removed from a
Mm,
power position.
mm,
So success again is something that, in my view, should be defined by you, not by society, not by expectations, not by what your mother expects you to be, but what you want to be, by what you intend to do, what your heart is, what gives you energy, what you're very good at. And so you if you shift from success is measured by the number of steps that you take in a corporate ladder from something more meaningful, I think you're going to be a much more meaningful and profound life compared to people that spend their life try to climb corporate ladders.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. So, what does it take? Let's dig into that. What does it take to find peace in oneself that allows your own hopes, aspirations to flourish, to shine in a way that's true to you? What does it actually take?
There is a chapter in my book in which I explain the concept of congruence.
Mm,
And congruence appears to be a bit of a mechanical word, but I think it's a beautiful word, which is fundamentally are, what you say, what you do, and what you think in the same place. No, are you aligned with yourself? Are you genuinely authentic in doing what you're doing? Because if this is the case, then I think you have success, not because the other one validated, but because you know you are in the right spot.
yes.
Okay. If you don't have this congruence and you have to pretend, and maybe you work in a company that you don't really like, or you work for a boss you don't really respect, or you feel that your skills are not utilized at best, and maybe you end up staying there because it's convenient, because the salary is great, or because maybe there is a good pension plan,
Mm,
then eventually you're not going to have that congruence, and the congruence is, to me, is essential. And you see, who are the most congruent people on earth? Kids.
mm,
Kids are beautifully congruent because they don't give a damn about you. They keep on playing soccer if they want to, and they're totally engaged in what they're doing. They are sincere, and that's the reason why we love kids so much, because they are
mm,
congruent with themselves. Even that when they are annoying, we still love them
mm.
because they are congruent in being annoyed and annoyed. And
Yes.
uh, and so here, yeah, I'm really saying, hey, listen, are you in the spot that you wanted to be? And when this is the case, then you have a moment of bliss, of happiness, and it's not about you just get promoted or you get a bonus. It's really about I was born to do that job. That's what I want to do. That's
Mm,
where I give myself. This is where my energy is flowing. This is where my brain is functioning at its best. When you are in that zone, I think you're congruent, and then you're successful because you know you are, not because somebody needs to tell you.
yes, absolutely. You talk a lot about knowing yourself, knowing oneself, and practicing your inner game. At the same time, also then making sure that you are good with others, in simple terms, a good collaborator, a good person. And I can think of many CEOs who borderline probably narcissist in some ways, where they may be very successful, but they need to be in the spotlight. They need to be the ones adored by everyone. They're low on empathy, even though they probably use the word very regularly in their speeches. We're an empathetic organization. How do you make the shift from knowing yourself, but also then playing the outer game successfully as well?
Now, David, this is another brilliant question because in that journey that I try to describe in my book, the first two games are very egocentric. It's about you. The inner game is try to find out who you are, and the better game, how you excel in doing whatever you're doing. Okay? But these are really closely focused on yourself.
Mm,
Then the first difficult step in your growing is when you start playing the outer and the caring game. And outer implies the intellectual curiosity to connect the dots, to develop what I call contextual intelligence, and to understand that perhaps life is not limited to your company, your
mm,
sector, your job. There's a much bigger scenery in front of you, and not necessarily always pleasant. And so when I describe the seven mega trends, it's not because you expect everybody to be competent in artificial intelligence, in demographic, geopolitics, and in climate change, but because you need to know that this stuff will impact your job, your company, your country, your
Yes.
community,
Yes.
and perhaps your family. The second element is when you grow, you have to play the caring game, and caring is not an elegant video on a corporate website. Is really understanding that you care about people and you know about them, and you're taking care of them. And when I say taking care, I don't mean in a condescending way or maybe by giving free yoga classes every Wednesday. Is really do you provide what is called the psychological safety safe environment that allows people to do mistakes and to grow as
Mm,
individuals.
mm,
So it's not easy for people to move from I to we, and a lot of people can't do this. So they maybe do it because it's politically correct, but eventually they don't. I remember work with an individual not so long time ago in which one day I sent him a note with some thoughts, and he called me, and I thought he appreciated the fact I spent the weekend writing something about an issue that we discussed in the leadership team a couple of days earlier. And he called me and said, "Well, please bear in mind that you're here to work, not to think. I'm the one who think." And then 1 hour later says we're carrying organization. I feel like no, you're not, because when somebody is trying to help you with some ideas, you treat him like please shut up because I'm the one who think you're just working. That really didn't work. So authenticity is not about perfection. It's about being perceived that whatever you're doing or say is true. Is true to yourself. Maybe people may dislike a couple of things, but they understand that it's authentic, and because of the reason you're followed as a leader. If you don't understand that and you don't internalize it, you cannot play around for too long. People will figure it out that you're just fake.
your journeys and your games get you to a place where you have to. There's a revolution, and you have to ultimately let go, and you get a higher level of spiritual, consciousness and leadership. What proportion of CEOs do you think get to that point or are operating at that point?
Uh, I don't have statistics that I would love to use to say I wrote a thesis about this, but I don't know if you can get 10%. I don't think you can. I think, again, it's not about CEOs or bad people at all, but there is an element of narcissism attached to some of the careers, and the idea that you are irreplaceable. Okay, and I know some of the people, well, in their 70s or 80s, they're still there. They don't let it go. When in reality, I'm quoting one of my favorite books, which is Mémoire d'Adrien, which is by Marguerite Yourcenar, which is a French author, and by describing Adriano, this Roman emperor, the book finished with a beautiful phrase that you say, "I realized that I was a great emperor because I was no longer needed." Okay, I
Mm,
was no longer
mm,
needed.
mm,
And this is to me the ultimate sign that you've done a great job when you're no longer needed. And the same with our kids. Okay, you want your kids to grow, you want your kids to be independent. You don't want them to wear nappies when they are 16. So leadership is something similar. Growing people, hoping and thinking they will be able to walk and take independent decisions because they have a solid value system, not because they're controlled by you. And so that's probably the difference between this book and many books about leadership, because there are so many of them, and
mm,
most of
mm,
them are incredibly interesting. They have, the way I see, three chunk of books. One set of book is the heroic story of a hero, and you have the these biographies of Steve Jobs or these people there. Then you have all the books that are referring to what the leader should be doing, and it's difficult to reconcile because at times you read, you need to have a strategic view for the next 30 years. And by the way, please keep on making profit for the next 20 quarters. And it's kind of difficult to look, 20 years ahead and simultaneously making sure that you're profitable every month for the next 10 years. And then a third kind of book, which is more humanistic, is about what a leader should be. But again, it's also difficult because at times they ask you to do things that are kind of difficult to incorporate in the same individual. What I want to do with this book is not to describe what they should be doing, is not to tell a story about a hero, and it's not about painting or drawing an idealistic view of what a leader should be doing, but it's really to say, how do you grow as an individual? No, because in order to be a leader, a credible leader, you have to be grown as an individual, and if you can't master this, it's going to be difficult.
So on that theme, if you are speaking with an aspiring leader, somebody on the way up, doing well, self-aware enough to think about their own development, what would be the typical, perhaps, assumptions or misplaced assumptions they might be making, or myths about leadership? You'd say, be aware of this, be conscious of this as you forge your own journey, play your own games, because leadership is one of those big buzzwords. Everyone talks about it, and there's lots of things that become in vogue, but are often wrong. What would be the ones that really perhaps grate at you or frustrate you?
But listen, perhaps I can refer also to my experience as a former HR director in an organization. So I sit in panels, and most of the time was chairing the panel to decide who would have been promoted to a leadership position. Now that is a very intense moment where you have a bunch of people that all of them aspire to become a manager or whatever title is given in an organization, no? And here you are, you have a beauty contest of 6, 10, 12 people per day, try to impress you, to say, listen, I should be the one get you to the next level. And the common theme that emerged in this conversation, that could be a coaching or an interview, even if the modality is very different, is people try to prove that they can be a good leader because they've been a good technical contributor. So now I can be a good CEO because I was the one selling more nappies at Procter & Gamble's. Okay, I can be a good leader because I reduced the cost or maybe I invented a new process, or I introduced a new methodology or whatever. And that's okay. And that's, to me, referring to the better game. The fact that you master the better game
Yes.
is necessary but not sufficient to be a credible leader. And to be a credible leader, you have to move from what I call independence to interdependence, meaning you start your life as a child, you depend on your parents. Then you grow and you become little by little more independent. But then there is a moment of maturity, wisdom, that you need to understand that you go from independence to interdependence,
Yes.
in which you understand that collaborating is the only way forward, in which you understand that you may disagree with individuals, but you sit down and you try to find a meaningful solution for everybody involved. And so this maturity, this modality, this mindset is not necessarily obvious for people that maybe they've been doing incredibly well some jobs in the past. So, and this is what Marshall Goldschmidt wrote in his book, to say, what got you here won't get you there,
Yes.
which is a brilliant title. The founder said, listen, you it's a different game.